everyone and welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be using this really nice tray. It's a circular tray. It's quite big. I think it's 24 centimeters and it has a nice wide rim on it. So I thought I was going to use some coarse salt in resin to do the rim and then just a simple dirty pour with a couple of colors, and then I was going to use a really gorgeous vintage tattoo design. It's a temporary tattoo and I really think that it is so pretty. So that will be coming later in the video. So at the moment all I'm doing is I'm adding some of the coarse salt to the resin. This is my crystal resin. It is a 24-hour resin, but it has quite a really nice high viscosity. So it's the one that if you want to use it with the Elmer's glue, you can, and it really works nicely. Or you can leave it to get warm and it actually holds the glitter if you're using glitter. Or if you're doing a dirty pour that you want the colors to be separate, it works really nicely. So that is the resin that I'm using in this video. This is just plain normal coarse salt, just from our local store, nothing fancy. And it does have some quite nice chunks in it. So I was hoping that it would make a nice feature around the rim of the tray. Now the tray, again, as usual, is from Temu. Like most of my supplies, I do get quite a lot from Temu. Most of my molds and my markers and my resin pigments, that sort of thing, I always get from Temu. My actual resin is from a local supplier. So I did put it into the vacuum chamber and tried to get out as many of the bubbles that I could. There were still some micro bubbles in it, but I wasn't too worried about it because I just basically wanted to get the look of the salt crystals in the actual tray. I did pack it nicely, but also I made sure that there was enough resin so that I didn't get any air bubbles trapped underneath the actual salt crystals, which it does happen sometimes, but I was hoping that there was enough resin and enough of the salt crystals as well. So it's a bit of a happy medium, but like I said, I did pack as much as I thought I would need to do the actual rim. I did put quite a lot in. I wasn't sure how much the actual tray would take because it is quite a wide rim, like I said. So I didn't want to not have enough. But it is a bit of a lengthy process trying to get it all squished nicely into the edges, well, not that they're edges because it's round, but trying to get them so that they are all squished down, and like I said, hoping that there was enough resin that the resin would seep through the crystals and get to the bottom so that I didn't have, if I got one or two little gaps, I wasn't too worried about it, but I wanted to try and make sure that it was packed nicely so that you actually get that crystal edge. So one other thing that you will see later on is that I had to clean it. I didn't show cleaning the actual inside of the tray, but I did clean it once I had done the edge and I was happy with what it looked like. But I was hoping that all the bits on the inside would come off really easily once it had cured, but it was quite a mission to get all the little bubbles of resin that had stuck on the actual silicone on the center. It was quite a mission to get them off, but I did in the end. It did take me a while. I didn't film doing that because I think you would have got really bored. It probably took me at least 10 to 15 minutes to actually clean the main flat part of the tray. So yeah, I saved you that because I think you would have got a little bit bored. And there, that little section there, I felt there was a little bit too much salt. I am a little bit out of camera. I do have to apologize. But you see what I'm doing. I'm sure you get the idea. I was just squashing it down with my, it's actually, they tongue depressors, but we call them sucker sticks or lollipop sticks. They are the wider ones. Yeah, so I'm just squashing them down so that it's nice and compressed, and trying to get all the bits off the center like I said before. So I won't bore you too much with how long it did actually take. Like I said, it does take a while, and then what I did was I poured a little bit of clear resin on top so that at least that little bit of clear resin would hopefully seep down in between the salt crystals. And here I was trying, like I said, I was trying to get as much of the leftover resin off the center of the silicone mold. I didn't want to spray too much of the alcohol on it. So, like I said, I thought I would just clean as much as I could off and let it dry. And then I did have a little bit left over of the salt crystals, and I used my little pyramid mold. That's my handmade pyramid mold, and I just filled it up with the salt crystals because I thought that would look quite nice with the extra left over. And I must say, I do love the pyramid shapes. They always look pretty. It doesn't matter what you put in them. They always look nice. And then just give it a tap to make sure that there's no air bubbles trapped. And then I added a little bit of the clear on top just to take it up to the rim. Now, this I did the filming at night, so I do have to apologize that the lighting is not very good, but I was now ready to do my dirty pour. I thought I would do 3 different colors, even though there was a tattoo going on top of it. I didn't only want white. I wanted a little bit of the lilac-y color and the white, and then a bit of the gray, because you'll see just now when I actually show you the tattoo, those are the colors. There's a little bit of blue around the eye, but I thought I'd keep to the lilac-y purpley color and the grays and whites. So I mixed up some resin with my actual white pigment liquid. It's a pigment paste, but it's quite liquidy. And I was going to add the mica powder to the 2 separate containers, and then add it to the white because it would give you more of a, I didn't want it transparent, I wanted it so that it was more translucent and you could actually see the backing was white. So for the first lot, I just used the white in, and obviously I had poured, well, not obviously, but I did use some 99% alcohol just to dissolve the mica powder in the bottom of the cups because I didn't want any air puffs, some powder puffs as I call them. So that's what I was doing there, and then just mixing in the white so that we got lighter shades of the actual mica powder. So here I thought I'd just speed it up a little bit so that I'm sure you don't really want to watch mixing all the time, because there's always a lot of mixing when you're watching resin. And then just individual dirty pour, nothing planned or no actual way I wanted it to fall, because all I really wanted was a mixture of the colors on the front, because like I said, I was adding the temporary tattoo, so I didn't really mind how it came out, but I just wanted the separate colors. So here it's just the lilac and the grey, and then like I said, I did have some white left over that I'd kept so that I could just swirl that in. Whether it made a difference or not, I wasn't too worried about it. So just filling up around and in between. I did want to take this right to the lip because I wasn't going to put a back top coat on here. However it came out, that is how it is going to stay. So I did need to fill it to the lip of the actual tray, and unfortunately this was just not enough to get to the lip of the tray. So I thought, okay, well, I've still got some of the clear left, so what I would do was not to use the white anymore. I would just use some of the purple marker and the grey marker and just mix it with clear and fill it up with that. I didn't think it would go through and make any designs on the front, but it at least would fill up the actual tray itself to the lip, so that I didn't have to do a top coat at the back once it had cured. Now, I'm not sure if I mentioned before, but you can use your heat mat with this resin. Some resins don't like a heat mat, but this resin actually works really nicely with a heat mat. If you put it on for about 4 hours, it's actually ready to unmold. A little bit soft, but you can unmold it. I did put it on the heat mat, but I actually left it overnight, because like I said, this was done at night. I did film at night, so I left it on the heat mat and then left it till the morning so that it was nice and solid. And there we go. You can see the different color. It's amazing how it actually looks so different from when it was poured. And there you can see two little sections where there were some air bubbles. I did spray it with alcohol before I put it on the heat mat, but obviously once I had left it there, those must have popped up, but it's fine. It's the bottom anyway, so like I said, and most of the time I wasn't too worried about those, because you're not really going to see them. Maybe I'll put a little foot on there once I've sanded it down a bit. And then there is the front, and I think it looks really nice. There were a few little micro bubbles. I didn't, and I should have put the white resin once I had mixed it into the vacuum chamber, but I didn't. But it was being covered with the tattoo anyway, and I was really happy with how that rim had come out. That salt crystal really gave it a nice solid rim to it. And that is the temporary tattoo that I was going to use. Obviously I have to cut it. I wish I had a beautiful long tray like that I could have used it on, but I thought that it was going to look really nice on there. Now, the tray is actually not as blue as in real life as what it looks there. It is more lilac-y, but the actual coloring on the video does not give it justice. It actually is quite lilac. And then there's my little pyramid. It came out really nicely. And then I needed to trim down the tattoo so that I could just try and see where I was going to cut it and which parts of it I was going to use. So what I thought I would do is, instead of doing it just in the middle, I was going to overlap it, because I wanted the eye and I also wanted the clock part of it with the horseshoe. And so I decided to put the eye to one side and then put the clock so that it just overlapped where the horseshoe was and sort of came up to where the eye is. The tattoos are really easy to work with. So after a little bit of wiggling here and there, I got it to fit. Obviously, it's going to be opposite to that because you put it face down. So, and always remember to take off. Yeah, so I decided to move the actual tray around because that is where the eye one was going to go. Always remember to take your plastic sheet off, because otherwise if you put water on, as soon as you put water on, it just sticks to the plastic sheet and there's no way of getting it off. So all it is if nobody has ever done a temporary tattoo on either your resin or your gypsumite or your jasmonite or eco resin, it's very simple. Spray it with some, you can even use a little sponge if you want to. I normally just give it a spray with water, either use a sponge or whatever. Let it sit for a couple of minutes or seconds or however, and then try and slide it off. It's easiest if you can slide it off, because if you can slide it off, it doesn't necessarily lift the actual temporary tattoo. Here I was just trying to get some of the air bubbles out. I didn't want any of the tattoo pulling away, so I was just making sure that that air bubble was not between the actual tattoo and the tray. So here I was just making doubly sure that there was no air bubbles before I tried to slide it off. And don't be in a rush, because if you do damage it, unfortunately you can put it back on, but sometimes you actually ruin it and it's not fun, because especially if you've only got one. And there you can see, if you slide it gently, and this is in real time, I haven't sped this up, this is in real time, gently slide it off, it sticks perfectly. Now I could have left it like that, but I wanted to have the clock on there somewhere. So I did sit for a second or two and contemplate whether I was going to leave it like that or if I was going to add the second one and overlap it. So there I was just wiping off some of the excess water so that I could put on the other one. I did decide to rather, I mean, it does look beautiful without the second one, but I wanted the clock. So that is why I did decide to go with doing the overlap on it, because I did want the whole base of it covered as well. So I I went with what I originally wanted to do. Now the second time around, it is more difficult and nerve-wracking to get the tattoo off because it is on top of an original tattoo. So you don't want to lift the first one when you are lifting the second one's piece of paper. And there is the end result of the actual temporary tattoo before I have to put on a top coat. So I left the tattoo for a few hours just so that it would dry out nicely. I left it by the window so that it was nice and dry. Then I mixed up some more of my crystal resin and I added a little bit of white shimmer and put it into the vacuum chamber just to get as many of the bubbles out that I could. There were still a few bubbles, but I wasn't too worried about that because I was going to use my heat gun to pop those bubbles once I had poured the top coat. And then I poured on the top coat. I still can't believe how pretty that tattoo looks on this tray. That eye just pops. It's absolutely gorgeous. Like I said before, it is quite a deep tray. I'm not sure if I actually mentioned that. It is quite a deep tray. It's probably between 10 and 15 centimeters on the inside. 10 and 15 centimeters. 10 and 15 millimeters on the inside. So it is quite a nice deep tray. So I didn't have to worry too much about how thick the top coat was because there's plenty of space on it. So then I got my heat gun and just popped the bubbles that were there. Not that there were very many, but I didn't want any bubbles. I wanted it to be perfectly clear, just with that little bit of shimmer in the resin. And oh, I'm already in love with this tray. I think it is absolutely gorgeous. Those colors are amazing. And I think that salt edge to it just makes it look even more beautiful. So now it was time to leave it again. I'm going to leave it overnight. I don't want to take any chances because I want that top coat to be absolutely perfect. So before I finish and we just watch a few of the pictures, I just wanted to take a moment just to appreciate that final top coat. The shine and reflections are absolutely what I was hoping for. And it gives the tray almost like a glass-like mirror finish, and it brings everything underneath to life. You can see how the shimmer in the clear coat catches the light without overpowering the design, and it just adds that soft glow across the surface. And the purples and the lilacs feel richer, and the grays have more depth. And the pop of blue and that eye really stands out, depending on how the light hits it. It almost looked like the design sitting under the glass rather than inside the resin, which I absolutely love. So if you enjoyed watching this all come together, please like and subscribe. I would really appreciate it. It does help my channel grow. And tell me in the comments, would you try salt in the rim of any of your resin pieces, or if you have tried it? I'd love to hear from you. So guys, that's all for today, and as usual, until next time, have a great one.